Hey everybody, welcome to episode 120 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett here with Jimmy Diresta.
Hello. Just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time.
Do you hear
Jimmy?
that? Do you hear that whining?
What's going on, Jimmy?
I think Spike is dying for food. When Spike gets hungry, he starts whining. So the other day, he actually pushed open the door to the kitchen, which is like a spring-loaded old door, and then he went up to the refrigerator and put his paws on the refrigerator. Like he's like, it's time to feed me. Taylor saw it. I didn't see it, but she said it was hilarious. So I think he's whining to eat again. So everything's good. I'm good. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming back. We also have David Picciuto.
I'm going to use this time to tell you about my cat problems.
Do it.
Yeah. So we have like a 21-year-old cat, and he loves to shower with you.
Oh, that's crazy.
Really?
Yeah, he likes to sit on top of the tub, and he wants you to drip water onto his face. And if you don't, then he starts like licking your leg, and it's a weird thing. But he's always done this. He just loves being in the shower with you. And lately, sorry, Kelly, but lately he's become extremely obsessed with it. Like anytime you sit up or get up, he runs to the bathroom, and he thinks he's just waiting every
shower
day,
time.
every moment. He's hoping it's shower time. Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like, Sydney, take it easy. Come on, come on.
I can tell you how to break a cat of that if you want.
Is it humane?
Well, yeah. You just put them in the shower. Turn it on, and then just leave them in there for a long time, and eventually they'll get sick of it, and they won't want to do that anymore.
I'll run that by the Kelly.
Our cat runs in after you take a shower and wants to lick the water off the bottom and wants to wait for the drips, and then walks around the house wet, which is super annoying.
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Well, now that we've gotten all of our cat problems out of the way, what's going on? What's new?
Have you guys heard
about
Makers and Shakers?
Yeah,
I did hear about that. It's back. Is it back, or is it like temporarily back?
We're testing the waters. So if you haven't heard, on my second channel, I did a surprise episode of Makers and Shakers, and so the plan is to, because it's on my second channel, it's much smaller, to kind of build it up quickly, where I'm making enough AdSense to pay Eric to do all the editing and posting of that. And it won't take long to get there, and so it'll be another one of those things that we film when he's on Tuesday, and he can take the files with him and edit it. So we're testing it to see if it fits into the workflow. It's not like I need more things to do, but I always feel like I can do more things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I got a really good response, and I kind of missed it. I kind of missed doing that stuff. So we'll see.
Awesome.
The trick,
that's cool.
You know what the trick is to getting on the show is to have a really good thumbnail.
That's it.
On that second channel, I started subscribing to like hundreds of people, and so when your feed is very clogged with a lot of stuff, and so I can't watch every video. So if you have an awesome thumbnail of an awesome thing that you made, there's a higher chance of getting watched, not just by me, but by anybody in general. It's just a good rule of thumb. So
here's a tip for everybody. Put David's face in your thumbnail, and then it'll catch his eye, and he'll put you on the show.
Can I say something funny? I was mowing the lawn, and then you were going through the rules and regulations, like at the end of the, and you go, if you email me, I will block you. What did you say specifically? But whatever you said, I cracked up laughing while I was mowing the lawn.
And wouldn't you know it, somebody emailed me. If you listen to this podcast, I'm sorry, but somebody emailed me like, hey, I'm glad you brought Makers and Shakers back. Here's my latest video. And that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. So.
Axe game down.
The axe came down. I didn't actually block this person, but I just want to, emails can be tough. Emails are not tough. It's just one of those things that can take up a lot of time. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, speaking of email, just in general, a lot of people who want to write an email, they have a thing that they think is pretty short that they want to say to someone, us or somebody else, but they don't really think about what it's going to add to the other person's time to actually read it and go through it. Yeah. So, like, I've been getting I don't know why, maybe it's just this time of year, I've been getting a lot of emails from college students and high school students, juniors, seniors, asking for help or ideas with their final projects. And it's not like they want me to make something for them, but just, I need an idea for a whatever, and it has these constraints. And I understand that. They're just trying to get an idea so they have something to go on. But, I mean, if you think about that, you're emailing a complete stranger and saying, like, can you do at least a portion of my work for me? Mm-hmm. Even though you have all of your own work to do and stuff. It's just, I think people don't maybe think through all the, the requirements that are sent with an email that they send.
Yeah. I think a lot of times what I have a problem with is, there's a certain emails where they're asking you to do something or to explain something or to come up with an idea. And, I don't know that I'm going to come up with the right solution for you. So what I struggle with is saying politely, like backing out of it, but not trying to offend somebody. And I always feel like I'm being rude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't get past that mental block. I don't think I'm not being rude, but I'm afraid that they're going to think I'm being rude.
Yeah.
Well, you did it with such excitement the other day. That's what made me laugh. You were like, hey, and if you email me, I'm going to block you.
Big
It
smile.
was so fun.
I'm looking forward to blocking everybody.
I was kind of watching and listening while I was on the mower, so I was kind of like, but then like it was the roundup, so I just put the phone in my pocket and I was listening, and I just started laughing. It was fun.
Nice. You happened to mention it in your vlog video.
No, I know, because it was like on mine. It was on my mind, and I saw it, and then it was like 2 days later when I was doing my wrap ups, and yeah, it was funny, and it came right out. And I'm like, wait, how do I know that name? So that was like a real funny moment. So.
Cool. Jimmy, what have you been up to?
I'm upstate. I've been upstate for 4 days. We're just working on the new shop. I'm kind of getting down to the wire in New York. I still have a lot to move, but it's the essentials really that are there. And so I figured it would be time to start to organize my giant pile of garbage. And I'm just going through it, and me and Willie are kind of organizing it. I'm building shelves and slowly defining the space and setting up the feng shui. I talked a little bit about it in my vlog, but there's considerably more movement since the last images in the vlog. We got a shelf on the wall, and I'm starting to go through and actually catalog and decide what I need, where I need it, how am I going to use it. So it's a lot of work, but I'm slowly chipping away at it. And I got electric in there, so I had to change plugs on some of my 220 equipment to get everything matched up to speed. But yep. It's and then what am I working on? Oh, and then I'm going to actually have a video out probably by the time this airs. I'll have a video of these metal hands that I made. They're going to hold the knives. It was a concept I came up with for a guy I made friends with online who has a knife company, and we started brainstorming about new ways to display knives, and I came up with this like plasma cut bent up hands that hold the knives, and I rusted them. They came out really nice and beautifully rusty the way I love it. And so I'm going to be wrapping that up probably today as far as the video is concerned.
Did you put that on Instagram, didn't you?
I did. I talked, I don't know if I put it on Instagram. I mentioned it in a vlog a couple weeks ago when I first started it.
Okay.
And I thought I was going to have it done a little bit faster and everything, because I knew he needs them in June, so I've been kind of lazy about them. I put it on the back burner. I did it before my Ohio trip. But yeah, just it's tough going, trying to organize, move, and also manage trying to keep vlogs and videos going. So it's been tough. That's why I've been putting up a couple of repeats lately. I'm kind of digging into my crates and putting up some of the Diresta cut stuff, which is now eligible for me to be able to post it on my channel. 18 months has always been the regulation that I made up with my clients there. So.
Nice. So I was curious about the moving stuff now that you're getting set up. I know you got are getting rid of a lot of stuff from the city, but have you gotten anything up there? And then while you're actually organizing, have you been like, oh, wow, I don't need this. Like, why did I bring this?
That's going to happen.
Or are you finding use for everything? No,
that's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen. I brought up bins of drawers because I just didn't have the time to like look through the drawers. So I have bins and if I open the drawer and it's like full of pencils that I put in there 6 years ago, I'm like, why? I could just empty this right into a garbage can and have an empty drawer. So that's going to have to happen while I'm up here. I got drawers with like doorknobs and electrical fixtures and boxes, things that I just don't need. And if we go on that criteria of like, have you needed it in the last year or 2 or 3 years? Most likely, most of that could probably just go in a pile.
3 years. I don't think people use the 3-year rule. I think it's more of a 1-year rule.
Well, you know me, I'm older. And I got a lot more time under my belt. So the idea is I'm going to really definitely kind of sift through the drawers and organize the drawers. Like even today, like I wanted to just dump full drawers into the garbage can, but I'm like, let me just slowly take my time and do this right. And Brett's going to be a big help. Brett has been my new shop assistant for the last almost 5 months. And Brett is looking forward to doing that. He likes doing that. To me, I can't stand it, but he likes going through it. And for him, too, it kind of gives him a visual catalog of what I have available as far as, what I got. So he's just like, oh, wow, look, I didn't know you had a drawer full of these. Did you know you had a drawer full of these? I'm like, no. Where'd you find those? I'm like, I don't even remember buying those. So he's like sifting through like the past, so to speak.
Now, is he in the city or is he upstate?
Brett is in the city, so he hasn't made it up here yet. He's helped me move up a couple of times, and Brett actually is going to sublet his apartment and move up to Hudson. Oh, he's sort of a country boy at heart. He's from Kansas City, and he's been wanting to get out of the city, and there's nothing holding him in the city anymore. He's made a full transition to be a maker, full-time maker. He's also a freelance motion graphic artist, editor. He's editing all of Taylor's videos. So Taylor's been shooting some of her stuff. He actually shot the new one that will be out in a couple of days of her making a leather apron. But Brett, he's also helped me considerably too. He shoots, so when I'm working, he just keeps moving along with me, and it helps me flow through some of the projects. Most recently, the wooden box that's on the Rockler channel, the leather toolbox. He and I work together. We breezed through a shoot. Just that shoot just took a long time because of my logistics. So I was making it up here, making it down there. But he's been a great help. So he's looking forward to helping that. And then Willie is amazing over at the shop today. When Willie works on an area, it looks like it was never messy ever since the day it was made. He's such an he's incredibly meticulous when it comes to cleaning anything and organizing stuff. It's amazing. When I give up on stuff, I just go, Willie, could you handle this? Because I just don't know what to do anymore. I do my best to try and clean up, inspired by Willie's abilities, and it just doesn't look the same. And like I said, when he finishes cleaning up or making or organizing or rearranging something, it looks like it was right off the factory, whatever it was. So between those guys and Taylor's going to start helping out. It's a long road, but it's welcomed, and the timing is just right, and it feels right. That's the most important. Like when I'm in there, It feels like home, even though it's just starting. So
that's awesome. I mean, I don't know if you intended this, but you actually have like a team now.
Yeah.
With that group of people in a new place to like actually be able to have enough space for a team. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. And
David Welder and I have been talking this week, and for the fans that are curious, David's just been taking a little bit of time off, trying to reassess what his focus and his goals are as far as YouTube. He's definitely not going anywhere. He's just been taking some time off working with his dad. His dad, I don't know if it's clear through his videos, his family owns like a half of an island in like a big network of lakes and rivers. And the house, to get to it, you need to get to it by rowboat. So Dave and his dad have been working on the house and doing some restoration on the house. And so that's what he's been up to. But Dave is more than welcome to come and settle in the shop when the time is right. And in my last video, I'll stop rambling after this next statement. But in my last video, I went over I walked through the property with the landlord. Guys, did you happen to see that? Where I walked through this like expansive, like kind of dingy warehouse. And half of the warehouse is collapsed, which is like, it's just a big open space. Anyway, he and I got to a conversation, and there's a couple of YouTubers that are looking to relocate, and I'm trying to encourage them. I don't want to say who they are, but I'm trying to encourage them to maybe look at the space to potentially, so we could have maybe groups of shops. So if anybody saw my vlog about my space in upstate New York and you're at all curious about getting a shop in the countryside in the middle of this Nowhereville, USA, we could potentially turn this into YouTube Mecca.
Way to sell it.
No, I mean, what I mean is like this town needs an identity. I don't want to say the name of the town just yet unless some people are serious about it, but some people know where my place is. But to avoid the mad rush of everyone coming to the only coffee shop that doesn't have a toaster and closes at 5, place makes breakfast sandwiches. It's like a big thing, breakfast sandwiches. Every time you go, can I have that on toast? I go, we don't have a toaster. I was going to buy a toaster and go there and say, can I have it on toast? We don't have a toaster. You do now. Can I have it on toast? Push it across the counter.
Just take your own toast in with you every time.
Yeah,
then you don't have to give them a toaster.
That's a good idea.
Just pull it out of your pocket.
They are so weird. They'll look at me so weird. They're like, wait a minute. You must be from New York. You're being too talkative. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
You're too friendly. You must be from New York City.
Said no one ever.
Wait, you definitely weren't born here, right? Because you're not being weird and introverted. No, I wasn't born here. So we'll change that once we get YouTube Mecca up here on Main Street. So
Nice.
If we can push it that way, that'd be fun.
Yeah, right on. Well, what are we going to talk? Oh, wait, I didn't say what I was working on.
What are you working on, Bob?
Hey, thanks for asking. This week, actually, I'm working on a bunch of stuff, which is really crazy. I say that every time, don't I? I say that every week.
It's true.
I'm working on a bunch of stuff. It is. But next week, I'm going to Maker Faire. Well, actually, this week I'm going to go to Maker Faire, but I'll be gone through next week. So I'm leaving on Friday, going out. I'll be there all weekend. If you're going to be at Maker Faire, which is like actually the day after this show comes out. So if you're going to be there, come hang out. There's going to be tons of makers, except for these two jokers.
We're gonna
other than them,
we're doing our own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll announce it.
Yeah.
Together. We're gonna announce it.
Anyway, other than these two guys, there's going to be a whole bunch of awesome people out there, and the fair is awesome anyway. But I'm giving 2 talks, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The one on Saturday, I don't know if I said this last week, but it's with Mark Rober, but then also Laura Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
Laura K is is joining us for the panel, and it's going to be about content creation. And that's on Saturday. And on Sunday, I'm giving one by myself about making mistakes and how important they are. So I got to write that on the plane out there. So that should be interesting. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. Tons of people, tons of events. The fair's great. And then I'm staying in San Francisco for another 2 days to shoot some collaboration stuff with some other people. So that'll be really cool. And then we come back here for a day. And then I leave again with my family on a trip for Memorial Day weekend. So like a long weekend trip. So Before then, I worked on 4 videos this morning, which is awesome. I have the next 2 weeks' videos shot and edited and colored, ready for voiceover.
Nice.
And tomorrow I'm going to shoot 2 more. So, yes,
you are
I'm doing a
kicking
lot of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, the video that'll be out this week is a robot lamp. It was supposed to be kind of styled after the 40s and 50s, like metal robot toys, you know. I don't think I really hit the look I was going for. I was intentionally making a metal robot out of wood. And so I knew it was going to look different and it wasn't going to have like the same kind of feel, you know. But I don't think I quite got it. Anyway, it's a robot lamp and it has a port in the back of it, like a receptacle with USB ports. So you can plug your phone and your other devices and stuff directly into the back of the lamp and it charges them.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what that is. You don't have your stolen hat from last week.
Oh, I know. You know, I never posted a picture. I'm sorry. I forgot all about it. And I had been upstate since a couple days later, and I forgot to post that picture. So I will. Of the big Avenue B hat. Yeah.
Cool. Twitter questions? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I think we're going to answer the remaining questions from last week. Let's start with this one. And I think I know the answer to this. So the first question comes from Chalfin, Chalfin on Twitter. Name a tool that you own that you have a love-hate relationship with, and why? Bob, I want you to go first on this one.
I figured you probably would. The jigsaw is probably the one that comes to the mind first. And I used to really, really hate it. Like I saw it just never worked. Turned out the one I had was really bad, like especially bad. And it was an old not actually that old, but it was a Black & Decker plastic, whatever. It just wouldn't cut straight. The cuts were just garbage, no matter what blade I put on it. And I still don't really know why that one specifically was so bad. But, you know, jigsaws are kind of not necessary. They're really helpful in some very specific situations. So eventually I bought another one, and it's way better. And it's actually like fine to use, and it does what I expect it to do, and it has, you know, relatively clean cuts and stuff. So that whole situation has gotten better. But I actually think there's a couple other tools that I kind of have that same situation with. Chisels are one of them. And I think when I get that situation where it just doesn't do what I expect it to do, I think it's because I have not sharp enough, but I think that's because I buy the low grade tool. I don't always go out and buy like a nice version of something that I need.
No, I think you can, if you have any kind of chunky chisel, I mean, if it's good quality, it'll keep a sharp edge longer, but if it has a sharp edge for at least, the first use or the second or third use, it's so much more pleasurable using a sharp chisel. And it's getting, like, what you think is sharp and what really is sharp might be two different things, because you might not have the tools to get it as sharp as it needs to be a pleasurable experience. But it's really important using hand planes and chisels. They have to be able to shave, otherwise it's just not worth it. Or it just makes using them frustrating.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
I'm going to put a pin in something because I want to come back to it after we finish this question. I have a lathe question for both of you. Mm-hmm. Don't let me forget that. Okay, so that's my answer.
Jimmy, love-hate relationship with the tool.
I guess with a concept. I guess it's CNC. I have a love-hate relationship with CNC. When it works great, it's amazing, and I'm so excited, whether it's wood, metal, or my milling machine, or my Tormach, or my plasma cutter. And when it works great, it's so nice, and when it doesn't work great, it's the most frustrating experience. It's like, damn this all to hell, I'm just going to go use a bandsaw. So it still happens. As much as I only show the successes in my YouTube videos, there's certain moments, like, for instance, that I talked today about this plasma cut hands that I made, and I was editing the video last night, and there's like 5 full minutes of video, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember shooting that. I left the camera on while I was busy trying to troubleshoot the initial cut. The initial cut, it just blew. When you plasma cut, it has to pierce, and when it pierces, there's like almost like a big burst of metal, and then it's under the metal, and then it's in the table. But when it doesn't pierce and it starts moving, it just blows hot molten metal all around the room for the length of that the cut doesn't pierce. And so I remember watching last night being like, oh my God. You go into the room, you put your hard drive in, you think everything's going to work perfect, and you hit start, and then you break a bit, or you blow your material, or your plasma cut doesn't go all the way through the material because you have it turned down to 40 volts instead of 80. And, it's just amps, I should say, because someone's going to correct me. I had it down 40 amps, not 80 amps. And so it didn't cut all the way through. So it just blew hot molten metal all around the room and ruined my GoPro camera in about 13 seconds. But yeah, it's definitely, something I'm trying to, the more the time goes by, I want to try and be more on the success side than the failure more often. There's a big problem, and a friend of mine, my buddy Mike Dubno, who's been featured in a couple of videos, he said we need a checklist, especially for the Tormach. There needs to be a checklist that you go through. Like, okay, are these 10 things all thought through? Because the minute you hit start, then you end up cutting the corner of your vise, and you're like, I forgot to set the tool number, or I forgot to change the amperage, or I forgot. So for each one of the CNC machines, I'm suggesting this, but I still haven't done it yet. We should make a checklist. I should make a checklist and say, are these 7 or 8 things done? And then when I hit start, my initial cut's going to be cool. It's going to work. Like I said, when you see my edited videos, I just show the successes. I don't show the 7 false starts or the 3 broken bits, or the time I crashed my Tormach. But the time goes on, and we live and we learn. Just more often you remember all these finite things.
I wonder if that has anything to do with, like, and maybe this isn't the case for you, but I use my CNC so rarely that stuff is just not present in my mind. Like, I don't think about all those steps because it's every 3 or 4 months I'll use it one time, and then I go away from it. And so I forget you're not having about problems. All the setup stuff. Well, no, I do have problems. I have those same things. I'll break bits. I'll forget to lift a certain thing or clear this thing or whatever. Right. But that's because I don't do it very often. Right. And I wonder if those checklists that you were talking about would become more natural if they were things that we did, on a daily basis.
Well, I think I don't need a checklist, and then I hit start and something goes wrong, and then I'm like, damn, that's the one thing I didn't think about. But yeah, as we go through life, it's just a matter of becoming more automatic. The more often we do it, the more often I do it.
Yeah.
But I still make mistakes.
One of the problems that I have with the CNC is I can't visually tell by looking at the bit whether this is, and I just don't know, but whether it's an upcut or a down cut, or if it's a plastic bit or a wood bit. And so I'm trying to I'm guessing, or I'm looking at the tiny little numbers on the bit and then Googling it to see if that bit is the right bit for what I'm going to use. And then, you need different speeds and feeds for different types of materials. And that's only a guideline. Because if you're cutting walnut, but it's curly walnut, that's going to react different to the bit than a straight grain walnut. And there's just so many trials and errors. And it's one of those things where like experience helps, because you can know like, oh, these are the guidelines, but I know I can cut a little faster, or I should cut slower with this particular board that I'm using.
I usually just do a lot of test cuts. I try to, especially if I have a limited amount of material. I definitely will do a test cut on either the tiny piece or something similar to it, just to make sure. I do that a lot. Because sometimes when you cut letters, they go flying and you lose them. So I'll also set up a jig. If I set up a cut, I'll cut the same thing like maybe twice, so that I have an extra set of letters, because some of them might get a jaggedy cut, or they might shoot across the room. So
That's a good idea.
I try and prepare. But every single time you cut, it's a new experience. One thing I learned from hanging out with John Saunders and the guys over at NYC CNC, they have a loop, which is a thing you can hold up to your eye, just like you see a jeweler use, and they check the tip of the bit and to see if it's chipped. And there have been so many times since I've been with them that I've checked the tip of a bit, and I'm like, oh wow, that's not going to cut well. That's the reason why it's not cutting well, or this is the reason why I'm having an off-center cut, because it's got a chip in it. So having a loop helps you read the side of the bit and also check the very end of the bit. And I bought a loop for like $10 on Amazon. Just a little magnifying glass, and they come with a little LED in them, so that no matter where you point it, it's like a magnifying glass with a light that's always present.
I'm pretty sure you just need that, like a little flip down one on your glasses, so you can flip it up out of the way and then flip it down like Doc Brown.
Oh, yes.
I need that too. Believe it or not, I've been working on some kind of crazy mad scientist H.G. Geiger glasses.
Nice.
Because I take them off, put them on 400 times an hour, and I never know where I put them down.
Going back to the jigsaw, in my shop tour video that I did a few weeks ago, I mentioned my jigsaw, and it's like, it's a great tool as long as you're using the right blade for the right job. And then I started getting questions about that. I'm like, every time I cut plywood with a jigsaw, it looks like crap. And plywood does not cut well with a jigsaw. I don't think there's a special plywood blade for the jigsaw. You
could use a down cut, which works better. So if you're going to use a frontal, if you're using the plywood with like a veneer on it, the teeth rake downward and you get a much better cut.
Or you could sandwich it between scraps too. That could help.
Yeah.
And but the wood Bosch bits I find for cutting regular pieces of wood work really well, and it's got to be sharp, of course. So that's all I have to say about the jigsaw. Well, the tool that I have a love-hate relationship with is the router. It's because I'm terrified of the router. It's just this thing that spins. It's in the air. It's out in the open, and it's only held in place by pressure. That weirds me out sometimes. I use it a lot in the table and handheld, but I'm terrified of it.
Yeah. It feels like it has a lot of power when you use it, and that's a little different than other things. And I guess it's like the gyroscopic nature of it, because it's like pulling itself in a certain direction almost. Whereas I don't feel like a circular saw. I don't feel like has that same like creating its own gyroscope, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, when you have it in a table, you have to feed it a certain way, otherwise it's going to take the board from your hands and throw it. And then when you have it handheld, you got to go another way depending on the type of cut that you're doing. And I always just feel like, am I doing this right? Is it going to catch? Is it going to tear up my wood? I don't know. I'm intimidated by the router.
Yeah. You know what? Recently I used it with the spring-loaded, what do they call it? The base where you can mush it down into the material. I don't forget what it's called.
Like a plunge.
The plunge cut.
A plunge. I for the very first time ever, used the plunge base on my small router. Every time you buy a router, it comes with a plunge base if you buy like the more expensive package. And I have 3 or 4 routers with plunge bases that I never use. I always just use the drag-around base. But recently, in my Rockler video, the last one I did with the box, I used the plunge base, and it made using it 1,000 times easier. It also made it safer because I had a very precise cut to try and do, and I knew instantly. I said, I'm going to screw this up. There's no matter. I was already planning on how to fix my mess up because I just figured I was going to go outside the lines. But by using the plunge base, if you feel like you're getting tricky, you could just like pop the spring and it pops out of the work. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
I need to get one of those. I need to get one of those. I'm sure you can get them for like a little trim router, right?
The DeWalt 611, don't you have that, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it for that.
I love that router. I have a few of them. A big one mounted in a table. I have another old one that's more of a handheld, like the two big knobs on the side. You can hold it like that. But yeah, that little DeWalt is awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, my lathe. Are we done with that, or anything else?
Yeah. What's your pin?
Lathe question. Okay, so I've been trying to lathe something, and this is just something I could look up but you guys know it, so I'm going to ask you. If you're trying to turn something small, and I don't even know how to ask this, but like, what are some different ways to mount it within the chuck? If you have a small piece that is a limited size, you don't have a whole bunch of excess on one side to like lock into the chuck or to screw in, like if you have a face on the spinning side that you don't want you don't want that face messed up. Mm-hmm. Do you just have to get a longer piece and then part it down to the final size that you want after it's turned, or is there some other process there?
I'm missing the question. Just if you don't mind just describing it again?
Well,
I couldn't picture it.
Okay, imagine this. This is not the example, but this kind of gets the same idea across. Imagine you wanted to turn a sphere.
Right.
Not a sphere. Imagine you wanted to turn a cylinder, and you didn't want like a perfect cylinder with flat ends. Mm-hmm. This is not a good example because you could do this 1,000 other ways. But just imagine that this is what. So you have this block. You chuck it up on one side, and you don't have enough room on this block to really like chuck up an extra inch or two.
Right, you got to use the entire piece of material is what you're saying.
You got to use pretty much the entire piece. Yeah. So what do you do? Glue on chunks onto the end of that, and then
you can certainly do that if it's wood. Yeah, you just add some sacrificial pieces. If say you have a piece of precious material and you just want to use that whole entire piece, definitely epoxy on some extra parts. That's a great idea. Mm-hmm. And make sure the epoxy stuff you put on is a hard material. You don't want to use like a piece of like hardwood with like pine ends, because pine isn't a great material to put in a lathe. It's very soft, especially if you don't have a live end, a live tailstock where it spins with the wood. If it's just if it's a stationary one and you're just depending on friction, like a pine will definitely be too soft.
Gotcha.
But you could do a grabbing chuck, like a three jaw chuck or a 4-jaw chuck.
Well, I have that. And so, but even that will, if you use your actual piece in there, clamping that down on there, whatever, it messes up the piece. Yeah. And if you need to actually turn that whole piece down.
Well, what some guys do is those 3-jaw chucks are designed to hold the outside of something or the inside of something. So you could put it in there, start spinning it, and make a pocket in the back, and then flip the whole thing over and grab it with the 3-jaw chuck opened up inside of that pocket you make. Make sense?
Huh. Yeah.
Because the chuck will grab compressing and then expanding. So when it expands, you'll have it expand inside the pocket that you initially make. So you see, like Frank Haworth does that a lot. You'll see him throw the chunk in, spin this big whatever it is. He usually has it kind of shaped slightly down to where he wants it. And then he'll put a hole in the bottom, just like a divot, and you turn it over, and then that divot then gets grabbed by the 3 jaws opening up inside of it. And then he has basically the entire piece of material to work, right up to where your chisel will hit the chuck, and you're able to work right up to it.
Gotcha. Okay, that helps. Yeah, I think I don't have enough experience with I don't have enough experience with any of it, but especially with those chucks, like
another option,
how to mount it in there in the best way,
is a plate. You could have the face plate that screws on. Yeah. It screws onto the spinning tailstock, or your spindle is what it's called. The end that turns is the spindle, and your faceplate can just screw right into the bottom of your piece of material, so that you have the chuck is not anything to consider. It's a little bit stronger too.
Yeah,
if you're not making a cup or a pocket or something, you could.
I think I was trying to find ways to not screw in or damage the outside faces, and so it sounds like gluing on some other hardwood on the outside of it's probably the way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Or plastic.
I appreciate that. Or plastic?
Epoxy plastic, yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, wood is this is probably a dumb question. Wood glue enough to, if you have a good
wood glue to wood glue, yeah. Wood to wood, yeah. That should be more than adequate.
Okay, I've got one here that was from last week. This is kind of interesting. What would you do if the bottom fell out of your current job? Ideal and realistic.
Well, I am actually. I can answer first because I'm. I started. I think I might have told you guys last week. I looked at my analytics and everything was down 20%. So, I mean, I never really relied on my YouTube money, but the more it got, the more comfortable I started to feel. I never had to live off of it, but I definitely turned things away knowing that I'll make a piece of change from YouTube. And now that piece of change is going to get smaller and smaller if it continues to get smaller. That's why I just amped my Patreon. I'm going to really focus on my Patreon and build my Patreon. And, you know, the fans always want to help, and I always kind of turn them away. So now if anybody wants to help me with Patreon, you know, we all have Patreon, but I've been kind of ignoring it. And so now I'm going to definitely focus on it, give it more love and more energy. And it's been fun, actually. It's fun to have like your secret friends you could talk to. So
yeah,
it's nice. So I'm doing that. And then up here, when I have my new shop, I am definitely not going to have the access to some of the clients in the city that I typically work for, which I'm actually not going to miss them. No offense if any of them are listening. But I am going to try and make farmhouse tables and some rustic furniture that the New York, the people that live in New York and live up here might want to buy from me, or anybody might want to buy a table. So I'm going to be making some farmhouse tables with the room that I have up here now. So I'm going to be making some stuff that I could actually just say, oh, would you want any one of these 4 things? Where in the past I'd have to wait for an order because I had nowhere to put them. So now I have room. So I'm going to amp my game up that way as well.
That's cool. What about you, David?
Well, if the bottom fell out, I would imagine the bottom would fall out for other creators like myself as well. Unless I did something totally stupid. Which I don't see myself doing. Everything I do is pretty calculated. So if that would happen, I would get together with you guys. We'd invite some other people who are, not doing so well as well, and just kind of brainstorm and say,
I'll save you a space in the Maker Village up here.
Yeah. Like, what can we do
USA.
together? Yeah, I'm going to turn to my friends and see what we can all do to help each other, get that bottom patched up and see where we're going, what we can do.
It's good.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if the bottom fell out of this, and I mean, honestly, I can't even imagine how that would happen completely. I could see things changing, and I think I can see it shifting away from a certain income source to something else, but it just feels like it's never going to just completely just explode.
Not overnight.
Yeah, exactly. Not overnight. But if it did, I mean, I feel like it would do that because something else was replacing it. Like something else that was more interesting or more beneficial or more whatever would come along, and I think we would probably be on to that new thing before this thing exploded. I might be wrong. I don't know, but I honestly, if all this stuff went away, I could easily see myself buying a farm and just living on a farm, making my own food, and trying to sell it and trying to make a living that way. Just I don't know. I like the simple stuff, and I could easily see myself, as long as we could make it work and take care of the family and everything, I think I would probably go that way, making furniture here and there or whatever, but probably just living off the land.
I like to think that any one of the machines that we all have access to could become a career. I mean, you could basically make a living 3D printing, Bob. Absolutely. I think there's enough people out there, if you opened up and said, I'm going to 3D print anything anybody wants me to. That's just an example. I'm sure you wouldn't do just that. But the example is that if any one of us has a certain number of machines, or our shop in general, we could certainly make a living off of a local economy with a shop. What you need to be is inventive, on time, and reliable. And if you're those 3 things, anybody will be able to make a living. It's the people. I'm up here trying to enlist services, and most of the people just don't show up. They say they put an ad in the Penny Saver or in the Craigslist, and you follow through, and then they just don't show up. And you're like, how could people half-heart the way they do their thing? So if you're in an environment or an economy where you just show up, Just show up, be honest, and be on time, and you could certainly eke out a living, regardless of whether it's house painting, raking leaves, mowing lawns, just handyman stuff, anything, or more involved crafts that so many people are skilled at.
I would also ask you guys if we could do the show like 5 times a week, and see if we can make a living doing the show.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Jimmy, because the conversation that's come up a bunch of times about like digital tools, CNC and 3D printing and all that stuff, and how there's debate about what that is and like what value it has and all that stuff. But if you had access to those tools and you were to lose your job, lose your income source or whatever, those tools can immediately serve as an assembly line or as a production line.
Mm-hmm. Right now, we just play with them.
Right now,
on YouTube.
it's exactly. Right now, we make one thing with them. But if you have a product that you can make and you can sell, and you have an automated machine that can make those while you're doing something else, that's money. I mean, that's how businesses. That's how cars are made, right? That's So, some people can think what they want about the digital fabrication stuff, and maybe it has its place in maybe some places it shouldn't be, but that's a good example of if you need to be able to generate income and you have access to those tools, they can be generating stuff for you while you're doing other work, while you're researching the next project or the next job.
It's so easy. Your grandmother could do it for you.
And that's another way to make money. Get your grandmother to do your work for you.
The bottom is never going to fall out as long as grandma's alive.
And the important thing is that you have a good idea of that thing that you want to make, or you have just a good plan. It's like I can't just keep making YouTube videos. I have to keep making good YouTube videos to make a living.
Right. You
can't just have a 3D printer. You have to have a 3D printer with a purpose to make a living.
Yeah. So I met somebody. This is kind of related. She goes by the name of Bendy Smalls. She's a cosplayer, and I met her in Seattle when I was out there with Bill and Britt from Punished Props. And I didn't really know a whole lot about her because I don't know a lot about the people who are like cosplayers professionally or whatever. But we got to talk to her a lot, and basically she makes costumes and then does events. But in between those times, she has like a fleet of 3D printers in her house, like a bunch of them. And she takes on commission printing work from people, everywhere from like individual just Joe Schmo who needs a piece printed for whatever, all the way up to like hospitals who need really high resolution like resin prints. And so she has this production facility in her house where she just takes in orders, she prints out the pieces and ships them out. And that gives her the livelihood so that she can do this other, costuming stuff that she really loves and enjoys. And like she does modeling and all these other things. But the 3D printing kind of production end of things is what pays for all of the rest of the stuff she loves. And I guess before that, I'd never met anybody who did that, kind of like a utility to provide the stuff you have a passion about. So I thought that was really cool. It's possible for sure. There's another question that's actually a little bit related to that. And I don't know where it is right now, but it was like, I'm sorry, I can't say your name because I don't know where the question is, but it was something to the effect of, what's the quickest way to turn $100 into $1,000?
That was the next one I was going to ask. And that is, yeah, Saul Rosas. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but Saul asked that, yes. If you had to, how would you turn $100 into $1,000 as fast as possible? That's a good question.
Jimmy, go.
I saw this question earlier when you I'm like Hillary Clinton, I got all the questions first. But when you when you sent that before, the first thing I thought of, and I already brought it up this afternoon, is to make a farmhouse table. Because with $100, you can get a set of legs online, or unless you want to spin your own. But go to the local sawmill and get some fresh cut lumber, and make sure you buy fresh cut lumber that was cut at least a couple months ago, so it's slightly dry. And you make a beautiful farmhouse table, and you could turn that into $1,000 easily. Like the farmhouse table I did on my Core 77 video. Now I sound like a panelist on like an old Johnny Carson show talking about my hits. But my old video on the Core 77 where I made a farmhouse table, so many people have copied that simple design and have sent me their versions of it. And I think with just a pile of $100 worth of wood, even from Home Depot, if you spend $100 in like that that pine aisle where the Home Depot sells all like the knotty and the non-mighty pine. You could make a beautiful table and turn around and sell it to a neighbor or somebody. And I always say you got to go online and get like the legs from if you go to tablelegs.com, you can for I think for like $25 each, which is the $100. Then you got to use pallet wood to make the rest of your table. You can make a beautiful table with beautiful turned legs that you could buy online, or go on Craigslist, get an old beat up table. Sometimes people save the legs for broken tables, and you can make the table any long size you want. And if you can make it with like sawmill wood that's very cheap and make it really long, people love long tables, like 12 and 13 foot tables. Not everybody has the room for them, but they're good to put in under a covered porch or something. And they always have perceived value.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that because that's pretty much my answer. I have a buddy here, his name's Dusty, who doesn't do a lot of woodworking. He just basically has a circular saw, buys lumber from a Home Depot or lumber that people give to him, and he makes tables and like outdoor furniture.
That's how John and Matt make their living in California, my brother and his son.
People pay good money for that stuff. And it's because it's this huge piece. Like a big table, people have this perceived thing where it's like, this is worth hundreds of dollars. And he does a good job. He has some great designs, but it's an easy way to take very inexpensive materials and turn a profit on it.
Yep.
Yes. I don't have anything to add to that at all.
Yeah, Jimmy nailed it. Jimmy nailed
he did.
There's actually a couple of places in New York where you could take $100, turn it into $1,000, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm from the Lower East Side. Call me after the show.
Oh, Jimmy just made $1,000.
Yeah, he did.
You got any
what
more,
else
Bob?
you got? Let's see.
I got one.
Okay, go for it.
I like this one because this changes for me. Hubbard's Homemade asked, who do you make videos for? Who is your target audience? How has it changed since you started?
Ooh. That's good.
I can go because I've talked about this. My target audience was the TV business at first because I was angry and disgruntled being a ex-TV employee. And so I was like, I'm going to show everybody how cool I am and what they missed. But that was just me being just a disgruntled teenager. Not really, but my behavior was just a disgruntled teenager. But then once I started getting the love and admiration from the fans and the people saying, you've changed my lives and you've got me out of my fear factor, and now I can go in the shop and do stuff, and then from the trained professionals like Andy Berkey, who constantly is showering me with accolades and in the way that like, wow, I love your perspective on that. He's definitely a skilled artist, so it's not like I'm getting him in the shop. So it's just I do now and now it sounds like I'm saying I do it for the accolades, but I do it to help people and inspire people, and it really is rewarding. In the same way that I was a teacher for so many years, and it was rewarding to watch the light in a student's eye light up once they realized, oh my God, now I know what I want to do with my time. Whereas before I just wasn't quite sure. Now I know. And now I'm doing that through YouTube, and it's extremely rewarding. So it's just to enlighten people, and that's really, really where it's at.
I think for me, I don't think I have a target audience, like on purpose. I think I've stayed pretty true to my initial goal of making content that anyone could stumble across from the day it's made until whatever, forever, could stumble across it, and it would still have a certain amount of relevance just from like the process that I'm using to make something, whether the thing I'm making may be dated or whatever. But so the idea has always been to make a thing that somebody could stumble across and get something out of it that would motivate them to make something that they wanted to have. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, there's no target for that. That's people. That's like human beings who have a thing that they want. So I don't think I have like a really defined target audience. And I think that works against me in some ways, because
that goes against every business book I've ever read.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works against me in that some people, just about everybody watches my videos for a specific thing, and so when I don't do that thing, then they feel alienated, or they're not interested, or they're whatever, and so
changed.
It bounces. Well, no, it bounces from like, this week person A is really interested, the next week person B is really interested, but person A doesn't care anymore, or whatever, and so that makes it hard to get like a really dedicated, really unified group of people who watch my videos, because everybody's watching them for a different reason. Not everybody, but you know what I mean? Yeah. It's broken up into a bunch of segments. That doesn't bother me so much, because I want to be able to reach as many people as possible, not just woodworkers, or not just prop makers. Or
Wait, if there's any advertisers listening, my target audience is 18 to 24. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, there you go. What about you, David?
So I think when I started off, my target audience was woodworkers, maybe beginning woodworkers who wanted to make money at craft shows. How it's changed is, I think my target audience is thousands of little me's out there, little David Picciutos. I think my target audience is people like me.
There's only one David Picciuto, and you know that.
Please stand up. Please stand up. So I want people. I want to attract like-minded people who are into making, crafting, being okay if the thing doesn't work, because, to overuse the phrase, we're just having fun. I want to show that woodworking doesn't have to have this negative, like, we have to do it this way, and this is how it's been done for hundreds of years. I wanted to show that everybody can be creative, and we can have fun, and it's just this thing that anybody can do. If you got to have tools, so it's not anybody. But I don't know. It's me. My target audience is me.
Well, I guess that's kind of the same as me, in that, like, I want people as curious as I am. I mean, I guess that's who I'm looking for. One of the things that has come up in previous conversations, not on the podcast, but in different places, is about like how our channels have evolved as our skills evolved. And that's something I've always thought a lot about. I've not really made any choices based on it. But imagine that you started your channel with the intention of having a beginner woodworker channel, right? And it was projects that any person with a handsaw could do. And that was your channel, and all of the videos worked in that, those constraints. Eventually, those people who start that way are gonna, if they start it and they start making projects and they're like, wow, this is great. So they learn some more skills, and then they're at a point to where the stuff you're making is maybe not interesting because it's too simple, or because it's too limiting, or because there's this constraint. The flip side of that is also true, where you do like high-end, whatever, super, woodworking stuff that nobody can touch, and nobody even makes an effort to actually make them and get to that level because it seems so far away. I don't think either one of those things are wrong. I'm just saying that there was a discussion one time, I don't even remember where it was, about like, do you grow your channel as your audience grows? Do you let your audience pass you by? Do you try to stay ahead of your audience? There's just some like thought processes.
I feel that I've grown a tremendous amount in the last 5 years. I still do the little basic project. Like, for instance, I'm going to make these hands. That's not a good example, because I'm going to plasma cut them, which is something I would have bandsawed out in the past. And I still do bandsaw. A couple of weeks ago, I put out a bandsaw video. So, but I definitely feel like I've grown up in the digital world in front of everybody's eyes. And for me, it's just another tool to have. And it's fun to explore it. And again, I talked about the frustration level accompanying with it. And it's there. I'm gonna try and CNC this. You know what? The letters are too small. I just shot them across the room. Let me just bandsaw them out instead. So, but that's why I get a lot of that complaint of you've changed. But the mass majority has grown with me. I feel a lot of people, almost everybody you talk to has got access to an X-Carve, it seems, or is thinking about getting an X-Carve, or knows somebody that has a CNC machine. So I think the world has really grown in a way. Not everybody has access to these things, but I think a lot more people than ever have the ambition to have access to them. Whereas I remember I would poo-poo the CNC machine, saying, I don't need that. And now I'm so happy that I gave that up. So I definitely feel like I've grown with my audience. I think. I know I've grown. I hope my audience has grown with me.
Yeah, a couple things to support my own point of my audience being people like me is I still build the things that I want or I need. And because if I'm building and making videos for an audience, I'm not doing this thing that's going to make me satisfied and happy. And sometimes I'll have to mix it up, like you guys are saying. Like, does your audience grow with you, or do you stay in this same level? And like my coffee table, if anybody looks at that down the road, a generation down the road, and they're going to see 4 different joinery techniques used on the same table, they're kind of like, what is going on? Who did this? I'm like, but for me, I made this thing, and I made a video as an entertainment, so you can watch and enjoy it. But maybe you get something out of it too, because I show you a couple different ways. So I think I'm still helping the little guy. I'm still giving maybe somebody with more experience to me some ideas, but mostly it's about entertaining and watching me kind of do this thing, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like I'm not saying what's in my head. I can't find the elegant words to express how I feel, but I think you get the point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I feel the same way. Like, if I don't make things that are personally interesting to me, then you can tell. They don't work as well, and I'm not excited about them. And you can see it in me, and you can see it in the project, and so that's always what I try to do. And sometimes I'm interested in a project for different reasons. Sometimes I'm interested because I like the way it looks. Sometimes it's because I've never done X before, and I just want to learn how to do X. I don't really care about the final product. It's just I want the experience of trying to turn a whatever on the lathe, you know. But like, I go back and forth about the whole thing of the audience passing me by or me passing them by as far as skill sets. I feel pretty strongly that because I get people on every single video ask me, make a tool or make a project with just hand tools, or I don't have all of those saws. Can you make something with just like really basic stuff? And like, I don't want to be a jerk and say no, but no, because I don't make projects to get the experience of using just hand tools. Like, that's just not, I make projects for the project, not for the process. Right. So right. I don't really care about what tools are used in the process. I want a lamp that looks like a robot. You know, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so the hard thing about that is that well, I guess it's not a hard thing, but there is a separation between some of the people watching and what's accessible for them as my skill sets grow and change, and I reach into new types of medium and new types of tools and whatever. And I do worry about that, like, separation a little bit, but not enough to actually do anything about it. Not enough to stunt what I'm interested in, just to make sure that, like, hand tool people are getting the video that they are asking for. You know what I mean?
Hand tool people have plenty of channels to watch, so they can buzz off.
Well, no, and I'm not talking about like
I'm just joking, but the point I was going to make is there's enough of us to go around. I like watching. There's enough of an audience, because I know my personal experiences. I watch machinist guys, and then I watch, for instance, Samurai Carpenter, who's constantly making all these Japanese joinery things, which I think one day I'll attempt, but I know I never will. I'd rather just use a circular saw and a bandsaw, and he's using chisels. I could totally respect what he does, and I watch what he does because it inspires me to be more meticulous with my own methods and my own things. So I'm watching him for a different reason. It's to just kind of remind myself I need to stay meticulous, and not necessarily. And I find him somewhat entertaining in his banter. I think he's funny, but he makes incredibly beautiful things. But I'm not watching him because I need to do exactly what he's doing. I'm watching him because he's educational and entertaining.
Well, that's good to hear, because that's what I hope people are watching me for, I guess.
Once in a while, don't you guys limit yourself just for your own personal challenge and not for your audience?
I do the Leatherman challenge. It's like, let me figure out how to make this light switch work with just the Leatherman. That kind
I don't know if I've done that or not.
Whatever it is. I don't necessarily do, like, I'm only going to do hand tools, because you know what? I drove to work and I made food in a blender, and
I think ultimately I'm trying to make the best video that I can make.
Yeah.
And sometimes the video will direct me what tools or what techniques I'm going to use in there, because, man, it's my business. I have to pay the bills,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I've never really thought about it that way. I don't know that I constrain myself for the sake of the video. Well, no, I do, I guess. I guess there's been a lot of times where I could have used a CNC or a 3D printer for something, and I don't, because it doesn't make a good video. Mm-hmm. I try to save those things for the situations where they're basically the only way to do something, or the, like way easier or way faster type thing. So I guess that is a constraint. But, okay. Well, we're running long again, which is cool. And we still have questions, so I guess we could do them next week if you want. You want to talk about what we're watching?
Jimmy just made a face.
I gotta look at my. Sorry.
So my what I'm watching is something I'm not watching or listening, but it's something I'm going to. And
it's not right.
I know it's not right at all. But there's the Tim Ferriss podcast, which I don't subscribe to. I just kind of like pick and choose which episodes I want to listen to, because sometimes I relate to Tim Ferriss and sometimes I don't. But somebody just reminded me that the author of the Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up was on his show back in April. And so that's what I'm going to listen to here in the next couple of days, because that book changed my life. And I think that author has amazing ideas. And so I can't wait to listen to the interview with her.
You know what I'm going to do? Because I didn't have a good prep. I wasn't prepped for this because I was running late. But I'm going to be a sellout and say the Rockler channel, because the Rockler channel includes, I've just looking through my history and I was watching some videos on the Rockler channel. Rockler channel is, it's a big sales pitch, but they have really good content, including mine and including David Picciuto's. And Bob, have you worked for Rockler yet?
I have not.
And I know David Welder is going to be working on there, and Darbin is on there, and April's on there. So it's a good mashup of a lot of good creators.
Rockler, what's up? I'm just kidding.
No, Bob, you're just content creation in the bank over there. Don't worry about it. So check out the Rockler channel, and there's lots of tips and stuff, and for woodworking.
Nice. Yeah, they do have a really good kind of breadth of content over there.
I heard they're doing a 3D printer, Bob. So you should get it.
Really?
3D. They're going to be printing wood.
Oh, neat. I actually don't have any Rockler tools, I don't think. But honestly, since they've been sponsoring more people and stuff, I've seen several of their little widgets and gadgets and things. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. Stuff that have kind of stuck out. So I guess their marketing is working on me. Whatever. I actually have two. One is a YouTube channel and one is a book. The book is I've been listening to. Let me find the name of it because I forgot. It's the Elon Musk biography. Have you guys heard this?
Mm-mm.
Uh-huh.
So, Elon, you have listened to it? Elon Musk is crazy. He's the guy from, PayPal and SpaceX and Tesla. Mm-hmm. And I've never known a whole lot about like where he came from or how he got to be as into everything as he is. And I'm not finished with the book. I'm like maybe halfway through, but it's really interesting. I mean, it just sheds like a good light on a person and how they become as driven and as motivated as he seems to be.
I know of the book. I haven't listened to it, so just want to clarify.
Gotcha.
That.
Yeah.
I will.
You should. It's good. Yeah. It's one of those things where when you talk about somebody's life, there's good stuff and bad stuff and personal stuff and like things that don't make them look like a great person. There's all of that. But I think it's really interesting, like when you find out about how somebody grew up and how their family and extended and like, multiple generations back, all of that stuff plays into who they are and what they're motivated to do and how far they're willing to go to get what they want and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. So I'm listening to that. And then also, so the other one's a YouTube channel. It's called A Glimpse Inside, and it's by a guy named Chris, and I can't think of Chris's last name. But he's a listener of the show and, supporter of all of our YouTube stuff. And he's been putting out videos for a while now. And they're just really good. He has a really good kind of upbeat personality. He does woodworking projects, lots of tables and just different stuff. It's just a good channel, and I'm glad to see. He talked to me about it when he first got it started and was asking some questions and all that. And it's good to see it's like moving and going, and he's having a good time with it. So go check out A Glimpse Inside.
Cool.
I guess we're about done, unless you guys got anything else. Got to thank our Patreon supporters.
We do,
because they're awesome, and we have had several new Patreon people this week, which is great. Thank you guys for that.
Thank you very much.
Especially Make, Build, Modify, and Wise Old Dow. They're our top contributors over there. Very grateful for them and everybody else. And if you want to support the show, that would be awesome, because we don't have sponsors. We have Patreon supporters. So go to patreon.com/makingit. You guys got anything else?
T-shirts, sweatshirts.
You have T-shirts and sweatshirts? Good, me too. Just kidding.
Making it the podcast has T-shirts and sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Yes, I do as well. But this isn't about me.
Just want everybody to know I got shirts.
Yeah. Since this isn't about me, I do want to announce, or I say once again, that I will be at KenCraft Hardwoods Saturday, June 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you're in Toledo that day, come by and say hello. There's a couple sponsors. They're giving away door prizes, and we're just going to have a good time.
Nice.
And yesterday I was at Filson's store doing a live performance.
So if you have a time machine, go back.
Go back yesterday.
And go to Jimmy's thing yesterday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at the Filson store, but no one's going to care by now.
Nice. And I'll be at Maker Fair this weekend, so if you're going to be there, hit me up. Let's hang out. That's it for this one, I guess.
You know what I love?
What?
My new giant ice pick.